What if the truth you've chased your whole life turns out to be a bomb that blows your world apart? I'm Ellie Harper, 32, a graphic designer with a cozy life in Chicago, married to Nate, the kindest man I've ever known. We've been together 5 years, married for 2, and I thought I had it all figured out until the itch to know my origins became too loud to ignore. Adopted at birth, I grew up with loving parents, but the question of my biological mother gnawed at me like a splinter under my skin. Who was she? Why did she give me up? So, I hired a private investigator, Mike Callahan, to dig into my past. I never imagined his findings would unravel my present. The search began quietly. Mike was a grizzled ex-cop with a knack for unearthing secrets. I gave him the sparse details I had: my adoption papers, a birth date, and a hospital in Minneapolis. He warned me it could take months, maybe years, and some truths might hurt more than the mystery. I didn't care. I needed to know. Nate supported me, though I could see the worry in his green eyes. "What if she's not what you expect?" he'd ask over dinner, his hands squeezing mine. I'd shrug, saying I just wanted closure. But deep down, I dreamed of a tearful reunion, a mother who'd wrap me in her arms and explain why she let me go. Weeks passed, and Mike's updates were thin. A lead here, a dead in there. I threw myself into work, designing logos for startups, trying to distract myself from the waiting. Nate's mom, Margaret, became my rock during this time. She was a petite woman in her late 50s, with silver-streaked blonde hair and a warm laugh that could melt anyone's defenses. She'd bring over homemade lasagna, sit with me on our porch, and share stories of Nate's childhood. "Your family now, Ellie," she'd say, patting my knee. Her kindness made me ache for the mother I never knew. Then one rainy Tuesday, Mike called. "Ellie, I found her," he said, his voice tight. "But you're not going to like this." My heart pounded as he asked to meet in person. I agreed, my hands shaking as I hung up. That evening, in a dimly lit coffee shop, Mike slid a folder across the table. "Your birth mother is Margaret and Harper. Maiden name, Larson." My mind blanked. Margaret? My mother-in-law? I laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. "That's impossible." She'd have told me. Nate would have known. Mike's eyes were grim. "She was 19, unmarried, gave birth in Minneapolis, and signed you over to the agency. It's all here: hospital records, adoption forms." I opened the folder, my fingers numb. There it was, Margaret's name, her signature, my birth date. The room spun. I drove home in a daze, the folder burning a hole in my passenger seat. Nate was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. "Hey, babe, you okay?" he asked, glancing up. I couldn't speak. I just handed him the folder. His face went pale as he read, his knife clattering to the counter. "Mom," he whispered. "No way." She'd have said something. We sat in silence, the weight of it crushing us. How could Margaret, the woman who welcomed me into her family, be my biological mother? And why had she kept it a secret? The next day, I confronted her. Margaret was in her garden, pruning roses, when I arrived. "Ellie, sweetheart, what's wrong?" she asked, seeing my face. I didn't ease into it. "Why didn't you tell me you're my mother?" Her pruning shears froze mid-cut, and her eyes widened. For a moment, I thought she'd deny it. Then she sank onto a bench, her hands trembling. "I wanted to," she whispered. "But I was so young, Ellie. I was scared, alone. My parents forced me to give you up. I thought it was best for you." Her voice broke, and tears spilled down her cheeks. "When Nate brought you home, I couldn't believe it was you. I thought it was fate, a second chance. But I was too ashamed to tell you. I wanted to scream, to hug her, to run all at once. Instead, I stood there, torn between anger and pity. She'd known I was her daughter for years and said nothing. Yet the pain in her eyes was real. "Why didn't you tell Nate?" I asked. She looked away. "I was afraid he'd hate me, or that you both would." I left without another word, my heart a tangled mess. That's when the twist came. sharp and unexpected. Nate's younger sister, Claire, showed up at our apartment that night, her face blotchy from crying. Claire, 28, was the family's free spirit, always traveling, rarely home. I hadn't seen her in months. "Ellie, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice shaking. "I overheard Mom talking to Dad years ago, before you and Nate got married. She told him you were her daughter. Dad wanted her to tell you, but she refused. I swore I'd never say anything, but I can't keep it anymore." Her words hit like a punch. Margaret hadn't just hidden the truth from Mesh confided in her husband, Nate's father, and sworn Claire to secrecy. The betrayal cut deeper. Nate, sitting beside me, looked like he'd been slapped. "Claire, why didn't you tell me?" he demanded. She sobbed. "I didn't want to break our family." Chaos erupted after that. Nate confronted his father, who admitted he'd known but respected Margaret's choice to stay silent. Nate felt betrayed by his entire family. "How could they lie to us?" he yelled, pacing our living room. I was too numb to answer. My marriage, my family, everything I thought I knew was unraveling. Margaret called daily, begging to explain, but I couldn't face her. The woman I'd loved as my mother-in-law was my mother, and the weight of her silence crushed me. Weeks later, I met Claire for coffee. She was the only one who seemed to understand my pain. "I hated keeping it from you," she said, stirring her latte. "But Mom thought she was protecting you." I nodded, but the hurt lingered. Claire reached for my hand. "You're my sister, Ellie. I always wanted one." Her words cracked something open in me. I hadn't just found a mother I'd gained a sister I never knew I had. It was a small light in the darkness. Healing took time. Nate and I went to therapy, working through the lies and the pain. Margaret and I started talking again, slowly. She shared stories of her youth, her regrets, her love for me. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. One evening, as we sat on her porch, she handed me a photo of her at 19, holding a newborn. "I never stopped loving you," she said. I cried, not for the years lost, but for the ones we might still have. The truth I'd chased didn't bring the reunion I dreamed of. It brought pain, secrets, and a family fractured by choices made long ago. But it also brought Claire, a sister who became my anchor, and a chance to rebuild with Margaret, not as a mother-in-law, but as my mother. Life doesn't give you tidy endings. Sometimes it gives you chaos and the courage to find meaning in it.